Welcome to a monolingual demonstration by Dan Everett. I am not Dan Everett. I am Sally Thomas, and I am introducing Dan Everett. I was just told by Robin Queen that not everybody knows what a monolingual demonstration is. It is not a demonstration of monolingualism. Dan will not stand here and speak in one language for an hour by way of showing you how this is done. Instead, it's a fieldwork demonstration of how to do fieldwork when you do not share any language with the consultant you are trying to find out about the language of. This technique was invented by Kenneth Pike, who was a stalwart of the University of Michigan Linguistics Department for, I don't know if many years, but a number of years, a significant number of years. I think he left in 1973, 1975, something like that. And Pike is no longer with us, not at Michigan, not anywhere in this world. But Dan has taken up the mantle and has done monolingual demonstrations publicly in a number of venues. He did one at the LSA some years ago, possibly. I'm not the only person here who heard that. In fact, I know there's at least one other person who did. And a couple of other people have. You might, now that you know what one is, you might still want to know why. That is, what's the point of doing this? How would this ever be useful in real life? Back when I was a graduate student, many years ago, people used to ask me, what is linguistics? What does a linguist do? I know probably everybody in this room has heard that question, but the answer I gave then, and even now occasionally give, was something like this. A linguist is a person who, if you drop them by parachute into any place in the world armed only with pens and paper, okay, nowadays a computer with really good batteries, they can start from absolute scratch and analyze the language. They can figure out its grammar, they can figure out its vocabulary, they can tell you what it all means. Okay, so that's no longer true of every linguist. Most linguists today probably are not trained that way. People are trained to do all sorts of other cool things, but not that. Actually, more and more linguists are being trained with that set of skills because endangered languages have become such an urgent concern of linguists. And if you want to do primary documentation on an endangered, or for that matter, any other language, you had better have the kinds of skills that will enable you to go out into the field and analyze a language. Typically, those of us who have done field work, even extensive field work, have not done it monolingually. But Dan has for over 30 years with the Pitahas and with a number of other languages as well. What a monolingual demonstration, like the one you're about to see, provides you with is a glimpse of what it's like to start from absolute scratch without being able to do it by translation. What's your word for run? What's your word for dog? And so forth. This kind of demonstration only works if the demonstrator doesn't know what the language is, right? So you can't cheat in advance. So I assure you that Dan has no idea what the language is, neither do I. Probably very few people do, because the more people who know a secret, the more likely it is not to be a secret anymore. He does have two valuable clues, though, provided illicitly by Andres Kutsia, who mentioned in a Facebook comment that the language is neither English nor Pitaha. Okay, two announcements before I turn the floor over to Dan. There will be, the most important one, of course, is there will be a reception after the demonstration. And you can ask Dan any questions that you didn't get to ask after the demonstration itself. But you will have a chance to ask questions when he's finished. And you will be recorded doing that. I'll remind you of this before opening the floor to questions when Dan's done. You will be recorded. Do I need to tell them anything else about that? Big Brother is what? I mean, listening. I mean, what can I say? Okay, Dan, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So, Ken Pike was my first linguistics professor, and I watched him do this, and I know from watching Ken do it many times and doing it myself many times that it's easy to screw up, okay? That's part of the fun for you, part of the headache for me. But it shows you what happens. And all my work with the Pita I was never able to ask them to translate anything. So once the speaker comes out, I will switch to speaking in Pita I, and then we'll see what happens. I'll work with them for a while. You're all linguists, so you'll see exactly what I'm doing. You'll know what I'm doing. You'll probably figure things out before I do. If you've taught a class, you know that your ability to spell and your ability to think clearly diminishes in direct proportion to your proximity to the blackboard. You know, I ask for your patience, although you don't have to be. You can laugh and whatever you want. But I will switch to Pita I, and we'll see what happens. So if you'd like to bring the speaker out. Here guy. Ayo. Chikasaga pau aise. Ne ai go kaise kya hai?
Pau ka jalo.
Pau ka jalo.
Kuchi pau ka jalo.
Kochi pau ka jalo. Kochi pau ka jalo.
Kuchi pau ka jalo.
Kuchi pau ka jalo. Jaulu.
Jalo.
Jaulu.
Jalo. Kuchi
Julu.
pau ka jalo.
Kuchi pau ka julu. Jaulu.
Jalo.
Jaulu. Nago kaise gaya hi gaya hai? E?
Coi khiến đông.
Kindong.
Khiến đông.
In kindong.
Yalla.
Yalla. In kindong.
Khiến đông.
In kindong. In kindong. In kindong.
Dạ.
Yeah.
Dạ khiến đông.
Yeah. In kindong. Wait, yo.
O tu khiến đông.
A tu kindong.
Khiến đông.
A tu in kindong.
Yalla.
In kindong. Megik kaube.
Khiến đông bóng lợi.
Paula. In kindong. In kindong. Paula.
Bóng lợi.
Paula. In kindong. Paula.
Bóng.
Pong.
Bóng lợi.
Paula. A tu in kindong. Paula.
Bóng.
Pong.
Bóng lợi.
Paula. A tu in kindong. Paula. Paula.
Bóng lợi.
Paula. in kindo
lọ lợ
lo le
lọ
lo
lọ lợ
la le la le
lọ
lo
lợ
le lo le. Che in kindo lao in kindo la le
khiến đông lọ lợ
la le che kindo la le
cú lọ tùn khiến đông
ku la le kindo
cú lọ tùn khiến đông
kun la du kindo
cú lọ tùn khiến đông
a tu in kindo
ở tùn khiến đông
in kindo qui
mê
in
mê
kindo oge
ồ tùn khiến đông lú lú
lulu
lú lú
in kindo lulu
lú lú
lulu in kindo oge
tên tên tế
dinde no kasi gahi gahi
đầy blong
tai blong
đầy blong
tai blong
giờ là
dai blong
đầy blong
dai blong tai blong
giờ
a tu dai blong
ở đầy blong
a dai blong a dai blong Paula
giờ cơ
yeah. Này gốc cách cái cái
lú bó rê
lú pause
giờ
lú pause lú pause dende
chia
Gian
chia
no Gian
lú bó rê lo
ah lú pause lo lú pause lulu
Lu pa rê mê.
Ime. Lupage me.
Giờ là
Lupage Paulo.
bóng là
Paulo.
giờ
Lupage
bó lu pa rê
Lupage
bó
Pó.
bó lu pa rê
Pó Lupage. Lupage Wenhio.
o lu pa rê
A Lupage. Pa A Lupage.
cú bó o lu pa rê
Ko pa A Lupage. No, cái gì cái
đê
D. D.
lý đê
Li D.
lý đê
Ch. D.
cú hầu đê
Cú hầu D. I type it. I like.
co hầu đê
No.
co hầu đê
Con hầu D. inquindo. Aí, che, inquindo. Não, cái sige, cái.
Jamba.
Jamba,
Jamba.
jamba,
Ja.
ja,
Ja.
dia,
Ba.
ba, jamba,
Jamba.
jamba. Inquindo, jamba, jamba, inquindo, jamba. Ibit. Ibait.
Cuốn tàu Jamba.
Cuốn đầu, jamba.
Cuốn tàu Jamba.
Cuốn đầu, jamba,
Cuốn tàu Jamba.
jamba.
Cuốn tàu Nữ Jamba.
Cuốn đầu,
Nữ Jamba.
nương jamba. Cuốn đầu, nương jamba,
Cuốn tàu Nữ Jamba.
jamba. Che, abripi,
Cú rậu.
cuốn jo,
Cú rậu.
jo,
Rậu.
cuốn jo, jo. Cuốn jo,
Cú rậu.
jo.
Cú sở.
Cuốn sơ,
Cú sở.
sơ. Này cô cái sige hay cái
Lú dĩ trớ.
lú gì sơ, ja.
Giờ là lú dĩ trớ.
Lú gì chớ,
Lú dĩ trớ.
lún gì chớ. Lún gì chớ, Paulo, Paula,
Lú dĩ trớ bóng lợi.
bông lợ. Này.
Tớ chỉ chớ.
Tớ gì chứ?
Yeah.
Lú gì chứ? Chết cô hay cái.
Cú nó chỉ chớ.
Cú nó gì chứ? Cú nó gì chứ?
Cú nó chỉ chớ.
Cú nó gì chứ? Gốp cái xích hay cái.
Trá trịa.
Giá dìa.
Trá trịa.
Giá dìa.
Trá trịa.
Giá dìa.
Trịa.
Dìa.
Trịa.
Dìa. Lú. Lún gì chứ? Giá dìa.
Ồ. Trá. Lại chỉ chớ.
Lại gì chứ?
Lại chỉ chớ.
Lại gì chứ?
Lại chỉ chớ.
Lại gì chứ?
Yeah, là.
Lại
Lại
gì chứ?
chỉ chớ.
Gì chứ? Lại gì chứ? Cú lại gì chứ?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Có lại chỉ chớ. Có.
Go lại gì chứ?
Có lại chỉ chớ.
Go lại gì chứ? Go lại gì chứ? Chê lại gì chứ? Lại gì chứ?
Cú.
Cú. Nè ai.
Có.
Go. Cơ.
Lỡ.
Lơ.
Lỡ.
Lơ. Lơ. Cái xích hay cái.
Lu đi lia.
Lú đi lia.
Yeah, là.
Lại lú đi lia. Lú đi lia.
Lại lú đi lia.
Lại lú đi dia. Này, hoa sai gai.
Đèn tớ.
Đèn tớ.
Đèn tớ.
Đèn tớ. Nó cái gì cái cái.
Ồ. Đèn tớ. Đèn tớ chúa.
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 Đèn tớ.
Đèn tớ lia.
Lia. Đèn tớ lia. Đèn tớ.
Đèn tớ xía.
Đèn tấu xía.
Xía.
Đèn tấu xía.
Tớ.
Đấu.
Tớ.
Đấu.
Tớ. Đèn tớ.
Đèn tấu.
Tớ.
Đấu.
Tớ.
Đấu.
Xía.
Xía. Đèn tớ xía.
Xía.
Đèn tớ xía.
Ồ. Cú đua đèn tớ xía.
Cú đua.
Cú đua. Đua.
Đua.
Đèn tớ xía. Đua.
Đua.
Đua. Cú đua đèn tớ xía.
Đèn tấu xía. Đèn tấu xía.
Dạ lời.
Yeah. Cún đua đèn tấu xía.
Cú đua đèn tớ xía.
Đèn tấu xía.
Tớ.
Tấu.
Cơ. Cơ.
Con.
Cú.
Cú. À.
Cơ.
Con. Con.
Cơ.
Con.
Lỡ.
Lỡ. Lỡ.
Cú.
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 Cơ.
Con. Con. Đua đèn tấu xía.
Đua đèn tớ xía.
Đèn tấu lia.
Đèn tớ lia.
Nó cái gì cái
Đầy ía.
Đầy ía.
Đầy ía.
Đầy ía.
Ía.
Đại Yến.
Dạ lời.
Đại Yến.
Đại Yến.
Chế. Chế cô bài hay. Đại Yến.
Cú trò Đại Yến.
Cú trò Đại Yến. Cú trò Đại Yến.
Cú trò Đại Yến.
Cú trò Đại Yến.
Dạ.
Con trò Đại Yến.
Có trò Đại Yến.
Có trò Đại Yến.
Có.
Lu ba dê.
Dạ lời.
Lu ba dê. Nó cái gì cái.
Lú tay.
Lú tay. Lú tay. Lú tay.
Lú tay.
Lú tay. Lu ba dê lú tay.
Lú bó rê nhỏ hậu lú tay.
Lu ba dê nó hao lú
Nhỏ
tay.
hậu.
Nhỏ hao.
Nhỏ hậu.
Nhỏ hao lú tay. Lu ba dê nhỏ hao lú tay. In Kindle. In Kindle.
Bón khí. Bón khí tông.
Bón Kindle.
Bón.
Ai quốc cái gì?
Khơ ba. Khơ.
Khăn ba.
Khơ.
Khơ ba.
Khơ. Khơ.
Khâu. con. Kindle.
Kín đông pa
Pa.
Mo alun be kín đông thiếp hùa pa tu pa
Tupan. Kindle tupan. Ku tupan. Kindle. Tu kindle tupan.
tu kín đông
Tu kindle
tu pa
tupan.
alun be
Tu ku kindle tupan. Tupan. Ku kindle tupan.
cú bó
Ku
tu
po.
kín đông
Ku po tu kindle. Ku po ton kindle.
cú bó
Tu kindle.
tu kín đông
Ku po
tu
tu kindle. Ku po tu a kindle.
cú bó ó tu kín đông
Ku po o tu kindle. Ikiai. Thank you very much.
What Joe?
Thank you. Thank you. Did you have, besides all the mistakes, would you be patient enough to teach somebody like me if I showed up someday to learn your language?
Yes.
Good. Thank you.
Can I
very much.
clarify a little bit the
Yes, I would
confusion?
love it
Okay.
if you did that, yeah.
There are Tung Kin Dong means the stick
Uh-huh.
from the branch. You know, it's almost like the branch, but then Tu Pa is also another meaning for just pick up a stick from, anywhere.
Oh, okay.
That's when I got you confused there.
Yeah, that
And
wasn't
then-
the only place.
And
yeah.
then I figured I might as well stick Tung Kin Dong, so I went back over there.
That was great. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
that was the
Appreciate it.
confusion.
Thank you. So, no.
I'm done.
Oh yeah, you're done. Right. That was English. I got that. I'm prepared to hear something else there. Okay, so you got off the plane for the first time, or you arrived by boat, or you just met this person in town and you don't speak any language in common. Your first pass is not going to be perfect. In fact, it's not going to even be all that good, but it's a start. And then all you have to do is keep that up for a couple of hours a day for about 10 years, and you got it figured out if you're lucky. So what are some of the things that we noted about this? Well, it seems to be SVO, a subject-verb-object language. That's not terribly shocking. There doesn't seem to be any plural marking on the nouns unless it's tones and I missed it. There clearly were tones. What the analysis of the tones is, actually Pike would get upset if I said tones. He would say there's clearly pitch going on here, and whether it's tone or not needs to be analyzed. I bet it's tone. And so were the tones level? Were they rising? There's a lot of, what you might notice is I had difficulty with the vowels a lot. And that's not surprising because the International Phonetic Alphabet or the Americanist alphabet are simply idealizations. These aren't truth. Nobody produces a phonemic inventory or phonetic inventory that just one-to-one matches the IPA. Everything, and this could have, I'm not saying that's the reason I couldn't get it. It's just that vowels in particular, as you know, have a range of articulations, and they can take some while to nail down, and some of the things that might be mistakes could turn out to be just the range allowable by the vowel. But if we were going to chart this, what are some of the vowels that we would have? Well, I got oo, and I got a nasalized version of oo. I got ah, probably an ah. I got, actually, I might as well put these in the right order instead of just listing them randomly. So here, probably here, and maybe here, and maybe some stuff over here that's unrounded. Did we get probably this to start? We got E. We probably got an I. I didn't hear an A. An E. An O. So if we were just starting off to look at things, we would first, I think probably the first thing we'd want to do is to look at the nasalization stuff that seems to go on all over the place. Are these phonemes? I mean, are they underlying forms, or are they just phonetic variants? They seem to be fairly constant. So that's one thing we would want to look at in the vowels. For the consonants, we certainly have a K, an L, a J, a P. We had several things going on in places before high vowels, so we would want to look at that and see. I heard implosives, but they weren't always as clear to me, so there were times when I heard the implosive, and other times when the voice onset timing was not quite the same as English, so it went back and forth for me, sounding like a T or a D. And we would want to look at all of that stuff. When I landed among the Pitaha for the first time, they knew that I was coming, but I didn't speak any Pitaha. I was told one phrase, but I couldn't remember it. And so I just got off the plane airsick with people. I get airsick in little planes. And the Pitaha were standing around talking like mad, so what did I do? Believe it or not, I picked up a stick and said, stick. And they said, and so I wrote that down and I started working. Now here's the interesting thing about Fieldwork. Those of you who read Word and Object by Willard Van Orman Quine and heard about the famous Gavagai problem, that I've never encountered that. That's an interesting fact about working with humans. When I've asked for the name of an animal, nobody has told me animal essence or animal parts or animal presence. They tell me the name of the animal, and it really refers to the whole animal. When I referred to different objects here, some of them would be natural to the environment, others wouldn't be. I mean, it's possible that what I thought meant container just meant plastic. Could have meant bowl, it could have meant a lot of things. So we start off with this, you take it down, you start to chart the data, and the same day, after just a short break, you start again investigating. Paul Postal summed up linguistic fieldwork about as well as anybody ever has in 2 steps. First, learn the language. Second, test and generate hypotheses daily about that. You cannot, in my opinion, do fieldwork without learning the language. If you don't develop some sort of intuitive grasp, when Pike developed the monolingual demonstration, In 1936, it was partly to show the holistic nature of field research, that it draws on the whole person. You can't simply go there and decide you're just going to work on one thing. You've got to figure out everything. Many times it helps to know the morphology to figure out the phonology, but you also need to know the phonology to figure out the morphology. You need to know the syntax maybe to figure out both of them, and you need to know both of them. So fieldwork is one continuous catch-22, where you have to study everything at once and make lots of errors, get laughed at a lot. I forgot to ask the speaker's name. That was. Oh yeah. What is your name? Na. Na. So you were very kind. You didn't laugh at me all the time. People will laugh at you. The Pitaha would tell me words that didn't mean anything like what I was asking for on purpose, just to. If everybody's laughing when you're trying to do this, that probably isn't what you thought you got. So you don't need to speak a language in common. For a long time, when Kenneth Pike was chair of this department and simultaneously the president of the Linguistic Society of America, I think he was here 27 years, and he was also president of the Summer Institute of Linguistics. He would not allow anyone to learn the national language before they learned the indigenous language. So if you went to study with him in Mexico, work with SIL in Mexico, you first had to learn the indigenous language before you were ever allowed to learn Spanish. And if you did happen to have the fate of knowing Spanish before you went, you were never allowed to use it. He insisted that the monolingual method was by far the best method for figuring out how languages work, and that translations and elicitation based on translations lead to artificial results. My own view of that is that we need all the data we can get. So I'm happy to take data from text, from elicitation, if I can get a translation. I remember working several years with the Pitaha and then switching to the Banawa, and I could ask them things in Portuguese, and they would write out text and say, this part means it was spoken by a woman long ago, and I felt like I was cheating. But I would strongly recommend to anyone doing field work that they try this, at least with some speakers, and see what your impressions are that way and what kind of conclusions you come up to. So I'll see if there are any questions about the monolingual method or about field work or about what you just saw. Yeah.
Thanks, Dan. You're to ask questions if you want to, but you are to be recorded. So before you utter, please wait for a microphone to be in your hands. There are 2 of them that will be floating around the room.
So under ideal conditions, how regularly would you change your informant, and how much attention would you pay to the sex of the informant?
This would be partially my decision, partially a decision of the community. So sometimes if you go into a community, like when I went to work with the Suya, the men of the village decided who I would work with. And I did not get the person that I really wanted to work with, but that's what you do. Pike tells a story of his very first language informant. He went with Cameron Townsend, the founder of SIL, into this small hut to record the language of this old man who was toothless and could barely hear and had a lot of other problems. And Pike took it, and as he walked out, Cameron Townsend said, "Don't show your disappointment so keenly next time. Learn to work with who the community gives you. If you have a choice, then you'll want to work with different people." I have found that a variety of consultants is very good because they give you different perspectives. Often what I will do, because I cannot ask for a translation, is I will have 2 recording devices. And I will record a speaker, and then I will ask another speaker to come and explain to me what they just said. But of course, they'll explain it in their own language. So I won't get a translation, but I will get an explanation. I will get paraphrases. I will actually even get editing of what this other person said. They will say, that's wrong, they should have said this. I don't know if that's right or not. But so a variety of informants. You also find that if you don't work with both male and female, you'll find, so among the Pitaha, there are 7 consonants for women and 8 consonants for men. And men can use whistle speech and women cannot. So there's a range of things you wouldn't get unless you changed speakers. You also have to be careful that your speaker is from the place you're working. I did hear a case of a guy who worked for a couple of years in Mexico and found out that the speaker he was working with was from another community and didn't speak that language.
I noticed that you never asked her to do anything to confirm that what you were saying was understandable to her. Was that just because you were on stage and the poor woman is standing in front of this whole crowd? Or would you start out doing it as you did and then move on to trying to get them to confirm by interaction, or in a more naturalistic
She
setting?
often said, yalla,
Yeah.
yalla. And so that I took to mean that I got it right.
Yeah.
Often I want to keep the movement going, and I don't want to put the focus on the teacher, because I want them to feel like I'm the one in the spotlight, I'm the one who can fail or succeed. They're the teacher. So I don't make them feel like they're being questioned or challenged at all. After I get to know things, I can ask better, and a lot of people, like among the Piraha, if they say yes, then what else is there to say about it? They would not understand. They would make a point of showing you they didn't understand if you said it wrong.
So I'm kind of confused. Did you set up this event thinking that my mother is one of the Piraha, or did you know that she's not one?
No, I know she's not. I spoke in Piraha so that I figure she's not going to understand that language.
Oh.
So the point is to use a language that I can't demonstrate it if I ask in English, because I'm fairly sure she speaks English. So I have to speak another language, so that a language that I'm pretty sure she doesn't understand, and I bet she didn't understand Piraha. So to show how it works. Yeah.
Well, thank you for your demonstrations. It was really good and really nice to see. I'm wondering, it must be quite difficult to get whether the consultant is saying to throw a stick, or I throw, you throw the stick. How do you actually pinpoint that?
Well, she was very helpful. She made a point of teaching me the difference between I and you and they. So I could tell that that's what it was, because she changed those things for me. So what you're looking for is to change some things and not others. You're looking for minimal pairs or controlled variation of some sort as much as you can. Looking for things so that the thing that changes probably means that new bit of information you introduced into it.
Thank you. Well, thank you again. I'm curious to know how you handled abstract concepts, and how did you elicit things like, I don't know, reliability, or how did you? That's a challenge, right?
It is. I wouldn't get it on the first day, but I could hug them and cry and say, I love you, man, and see what they say. But probably you're going to get that kind of information in texts and observation. So I remember trying for a while to get left hand and right hand, and I couldn't get it. I just couldn't get left hand and right hand. And this is before some of the work on the absence of these terms came out, or that I was aware of. And I thought, what kind of linguist cannot even get the difference between left hand and right hand? And it's really frustrating. So I walked with them into the jungle every day I was with them in the jungle, and one guy started to turn left, and the other guy said, no, don't turn downriver, turn upriver. There's no river around. So I realized that they don't use left hand, right hand. They don't use these relative directions. They use absolute directions, which now, of course, is a common fact if you're starting out today, but I didn't know that. When you figure out a morpheme, it's cause for a party. Every time you figure out one little piece of the verb or one little piece of the sentence, you're excited. The fact that Piraha has 65,000 plus possible verb forms means there were a lot of parties, and a lot of parties still to come. So not everything is transparent. A lot of things stand out to you the first day. Other things, they just seem a mystery. One day just suddenly, oh yeah, why didn't I know that? That's what that's doing. So it's not easy, but this kind of stuff, the purpose of this is to help you learn the language so that you can eventually go to texts. Another thing that I didn't do here that's very common, the one magic phrase is, what is that? Right? That's a great phrase to know. And how do you get that if you don't speak any language in common? Well, one of the ways is to have something that people can't see in and rattle around in there and make them curious, and maybe they'll say something. And that could mean, what the hell are you doing? Or it could mean, what is that?
Okay.
So you know, you go out and you try it. Oh, what the hell are you doing? But then they'll correct you if it's not what it's supposed to be. So in Piraha, that word is, the phrase, which I didn't know what it meant, is Higokasigiaihe, which literally means what is the name associated with that, and what is he doing or she doing. That took me longer.
When you first arrived at the community, were people just curious to work with you, or did you have them to kind of convince or at least make them curious to actually talk to you? Did you ever go to a community where people were shy or something and turned away from you? And what would you do in a situation like that?
Well, when I first went to the Piraha, the men were ready to work with me, but the women, when I would try to get some information, would just turn and spit and walk away. And you know, you can't take that personally. It's intended personally, but you just can't take it personally. So that took a while. And the women really didn't start working to me until I could tell dirty jokes in the language and make them laugh. And then they figured, okay, he's a fun guy, I'll work with him. So it took a couple of years.
Back here, sorry. Is eliciting whistle speech different than spoken speech, and how did you go about that?
Well, I had heard that they had whistle speech. And so I tried to whistle something, and they started laughing. So I said, you do it. And they did it. And so I transcribed that, and it is different than spoken speech in some ways, and it's hard to figure out how the differences are, but they do that. And so a lot of the time, I also knew from Steve Sheldon's work that they had sounds that didn't occur in any other language of the world. Well, one in particular, le. So walk up to somebody and you see some milk, or breast is the same word, and so a woman's nursing a baby, and I say, what is that? That was hard. I knew what that was, voiced bilabial trill, that exists in some languages, but the le. So how do you say something's really big? So these sounds, but I was trying to get this, and they wouldn't say it. And so then one day they came in and they said, you've been here for a while, so we told you that the word for milk is iboge, but you can also say ibroge, or you can say ible, or you can say ibre, or you can say, or you could say, so there are all these different ways to say it.
Do you tend to ask about objects and actions in specific order, for example, starting with the stick, or does it depend on the environment that you're in?
It depends on the environment, but I start with things that I figure every culture will know something about. Actually, in the Amazon, you'd get words for these things, but hard rocks like this usually don't occur in the Amazon. But you would get, there's a conglomerate, it's just, dirt basically clumped together, and they'll give you the word for that. Some things get really hard, but they're still just conglomerate. They're not solid rocks like this in the Amazon because of all the silt. But you start with things you assume that everybody will have, and maybe that's right and maybe it's wrong. You look and see how they talk to each other. You don't want to ask inappropriate things. It's who do you talk to? Who can you talk to? So that's why it's holistic. You can't just go in there and say, I'm a linguist, I want linguistic data. You want data about the people. You want to understand the people. You want to develop a relationship. You want to learn how to speak the language. And you want them to see that you don't think you're a big deal. They won't think so anyway. But you don't want to create that impression, because your time there, your success depends on their goodwill.
Okay, so I will ask a question that I think multiple people are wondering about. That you recognize the language or the language family, and then one of the insiders what is the language?
That's the thing that Pike would do. I assume, based on a number of things, that it comes from Asia, and I would guess based on other things, probably more like the Philippines, but I'm not sure really what the language is. What is the name of the language? Hmong. Oh, so it doesn't come from the Philippines, it comes from Vietnam. I should have known that with the implosives, right? The implosive should have told me that. Oh, okay.
Hi. So I was wondering, in your work with the Piraha, was there any English acquisition on their side too?
They would ask me sometimes because they can't tell the difference between English and Portuguese. They probably can now, but in the early years they couldn't. So they would say, how do you say this in Portuguese? Mesa. Mena. Mesa. Well, that's an ugly word. How do you say it in English? Table. Table. Also ugly.
I wonder about the whistle speech. I've never worked with a language that has the whistling, and I wonder if you could remark, in the case, at least the case of Piraha, what the relationship is between the spoken and whistled versions of the language.
Yeah, so Piraha has 5 syllable weights. It has 2 tones. It has stress placement that goes on one of the last 3 syllables depending on syllable weight. And in a Thai, it goes towards the end, farther towards the end of the word. All of that's whistled. Okay? So when they whistle, you get the tones, the syllable weight, even the syllable breaks, you get the stress pattern. One of the interesting things is that what I thought was just free variation among the consonants. So S and H can vary with each other for some speakers, and also P, T, K, and glottal. Actually, not so much T, but P, K, and glottal can vary with one another. And what is the reason for that? Well, according to the stress rules that I've written for the language, none of that would affect the stress or affect the prosody. So the segments can vary so long as they don't affect the prosody, because that's very important for hum speech, whistle speech, yell speech, musical speech, for all of these things. So when you're working with the language, and if they tell you something like, you ask what's the word for head, and the first thing they say is apapai, and you repeat it, and they say, that's right, kakakai, then is that some special morpheme? Or is that just free variation? So when I got the word for nose, I said, what is this? Itawe? Itawe? Yeah, itaupai. What is this? Awe? Awe? Aupai. So what is that pi? So I say, what is the pi? It doesn't mean anything. They're the same. That's not true. So it actually, one is so itawe is nose, it disembodied. Itaupai is possessed nose. Your nose, my nose. But you don't expect them to know that. So if I ask you, if you told me I am going to work and I ask you, what is to? What does that mean? Probably you couldn't answer. And you're linguists.
When do people acquire the whistling and the humming and the yelling and the musical speech?
The hum
do they
speech
acquire
is,
those as children? Or?
Yeah, and the hum speech is learned first. That's the most common speech between caregivers and children. And then whistle speech, boys and men do that. The yell speech, they see it all the time. So I have seen little kids, I haven't studied this systematically. Peter Gordon went down with me a couple of times from Columbia University to look at acquisition, but we weren't able to get enough time together for him to really do that study. But we did notice some children learning consonants later than you might have expected. But they hummed and whistled, and because the prosodic channels were very important. There's questions in the front here.
You said something about one of your associates had somebody come with them as an interpreter, and they were from a different community, so make sure that person who comes with you is from the same community. So does that mean the language Piraha is only spoken in like one village or something? And what country?
What I meant community was language community, speech community.
Oh, right.
The Piraha have about 8 villages. They're spoken in the Amazon. That language is spoken in the Amazon of Brazil.
Oh.
Yeah.
So when you begin learning the language, you usually start with things like this, but how quickly do you start to pick up things like greetings and asking names and more?
Usually the same day, because if they have them, not with the Piraha, because they don't really have greetings. I said something into the Piraha like, when Na came in, I said, okay, because that's the closest thing the Pirahas have to a greeting. And, the Piraha equivalent of okay, they don't actually have the word okay. Sometimes you get that back naturally. Not all languages use phatic communication, this greetings and leave takings and all this as much as we do. Piraha don't use it at all.
Did you learn a lot from speaking with children, or in general with children?
Children, I did work with children, but they're very hard. I mean, they didn't want to talk to me very much, but sometimes the dad would call them up and say, he'll give you some candy if you'll say this and this and this. And so I would. When I wanted to learn body parts, you need to learn all the body parts, and not all of them are things you necessarily want to go around pointing at. So, they just brought up little kids and pointed out everything and said that's what that is. So that was good. Although the genitals change names after maturity, so. To say somebody a male grew up, he's got big balls. So. Yeah, you have a question? Okay, sorry.
I noticed you used a lot of gestural language, like you were pointing or nodding. That's bound to change among communities. How do you go around it? Like, does pointing always work, or does it sometimes not work at all?
Well, part of the thing is you don't know what's going to work. So, I could point with my lower lip. That's not natural to me. So the main thing you do is do what's natural to you. The interesting thing about human beings is that we all expect other human beings to talk. We don't expect to understand them. We expect them to talk. We assume, whether you're Piraha or British or whatever, you assume that a lot of that stuff is similar. And if you don't talk or you don't point, it's worse than if you do and do it wrongly. So just be yourself and work on this stuff. Will you make mistakes? Yes. And they will love it very often.
I was noticing that you were writing things again and again.
Right.
And I was wondering if there was a reason for that, because I was thinking afterwards that you could have elicited the word for stick and put it in the middle of the blackboard.
Right, right.
And then sort of position things out from it. So are you listening and trying to write again and again as part of the strategy?
Yes, because I'm assuming that I got it wrong. Okay. And so I'm working on it and see if I can do better. Sometimes I just copied it over, but I also want to get the phrase, and I don't want to assume that it goes in one position when in fact it goes in another position. So I prefer to write it all out. That's another thing I would tell you. When you're taking notes, never erase them. Always take notes in indelible pen and put a line through them if you have to.
Earlier you said that the males will use a different consonant system than the females. How do the children know which consonant system to use? Do the fathers only speak to the sons and the mothers only speak to the daughters?
No, most children, the children speak their mother's dialect until they get older, and then the boys start talking the men's dialect. Okay, so and this is common among a lot of languages that have male versus female speech distinctions, is that the mother's is what they're going to learn first. And one interesting thing about the Piraha, everybody gets married because it's an economic necessity, it's a social expectation, but there is no, what your sexuality is irrelevant to that. So a lot of the men I think are bisexual based on what I've seen them do. They are bisexual. A couple of them I would say are more like homosexual, but they're married because they have to be married. And those two guys speak with the woman's dialect.
So we probably should have one more question, and then we'll let you go to the reception.
I'm honored. It sounds like this wasn't a problem with Piraha, but what
do you ever have the problem of speakers giving you what they think you want to hear, but it not being the correct or most useful form?
Yeah, that happens all day. And so you have to be testing it with other speakers all the time. What I would do on a normal day in Piraha, I would have done what we just did here. I would write it all down. I would systematize it as much as I could. I would make questions to myself, and I would go right out and test it with as many people as I could. And so, you test things. So like I was walking by a fire one time, and I said, how do I, that smells good. And I tried to get that idea across. And they gave me a long phrase. So I walked over to somebody else and tried it out and said, that smells good. And they just looked at me. And what that phrase means is it's pleasant the way the smoke is hitting me in the nose. Okay, I guess that's it then. Thank you.